that these soldiers, our soldiers who survived this horrific attack, are lying?
What I'm saying is before the commencement of the conflict, we put in maximum defensive posture we could.
That's a direct
We
contradiction
moved
to
70
what they said.
in this directing. Can I speak, or are you just going to monologue falsehoods all over the place?
It's not a falsehood.
We moved 7,500 troops off of
Reclaiming
the
my
X based
time.
on the intel.
Stop.
Based on the intel.
Stop. Reclaiming my time.
Because you yell doesn't make you right.
calling?
Just because you yell doesn't make you right.
I'm reclaiming my time on behalf of these survivors. And I'm asking for the same, starting with you. And as I said a year ago, you need to resign immediately.
This wasn't a political debate. It was a decorated combat veteran with 2 Bronze Stars staring the Secretary of Defense in the eye and telling him he should step down. Patrick Ryan didn't speak with outrage for the sake of headlines or theater. He spoke because 6 American service members lost their lives. 6 soldiers from Iowa, Florida, Nebraska, Minnesota, and California were deployed to a civilian port in Kuwait that intelligence had reportedly already identified as impossible to defend. A single Iranian drone struck, and there were no effective defenses in place. Yet the following day, Pete Hegseth stood at the Pentagon podium and dismissed it as a squirter that somehow managed to get through fortified protection. This is the consequence, Ryan argues, of Donald Trump placing a television personality in charge of the Pentagon. And as those 6 grieving families lay their sons to rest, Kash Patel and the rest of the Loyalist network remain completely silent, just as they've consistently done. 6 Americans dead. 1 statement from the podium that Ryan calls a lie. 1 public demand for the Secretary's resignation that still has no answer. If this already has you fired up, hit the like button and leave a comment telling me whether you think Hegseth can walk away from this without consequences. In the next part, Ryan begins laying out the full extent of the failure.
Chair, I recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Head wounds, heavy bleeding, and then just shrapnel all over. So folks are bleeding from their abdomen, bleeding from arms, bleeding from legs. Secretary Hegseth, do you know who said that?
I'm not sure I do.
It was one of our soldiers describing the devastating Iranian drone strike at Port Shuaibah, March 1st in Kuwait. As you know, 6 of our soldiers killed, over 30 wounded. Secretary, do you know the range of the Shahed 136 one-way attack drone, approximately?
It depends on the variant, but it's got serious distance.
Several hundred miles. Mm-hmm. Do you know how far Port Shuaibah is from Iran?
There's a reason why we took extreme measures
of
force protection, because we understood the proximity challenges.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to reclaim my time. It's well under 100 miles. Before the war started, there was clear intelligence that Shuaibah was high on Iran's target list. Internal analysis had said the site was indefensible from aerial attack and should not be used.
Head injuries, severe blood loss, shrapnel ripping through abdomens, arms, and legs. 6 American reservists were struck down inside a shipping container structure at a civilian port. That is the devastating picture Patrick Ryan places before the hearing room before asking a single question about policy. Then he turns to the one fact Hegseth cannot easily explain away: distance. The Shahed 136 drone is capable of traveling hundreds of miles, while Port Shuaibah sits less than 100 miles from Iran. Even before the conflict began, U.S. intelligence had reportedly identified the location as one of Tehran's likely targets and concluded it was indefensible against an aerial attack. The recommendation was straightforward: do not use the site. Despite that warning, it was used anyway. This was not confusion caused by the chaos of war. According to Ryan, it was a deliberate decision made by those at the highest levels. The same administration that frequently speaks about peace through strength deployed American troops to a location its own analysts had warned could not be properly defended, then reacted with surprise when the predictable occurred. Trump appointed the man leading the Pentagon, yet those around him, including figures such as Kash Patel, have shown no interest in explaining why the intelligence warning was disregarded. Ryan argues that the blood spilled that day was not an unforeseeable tragedy. It was a foreseeable outcome. And that is the truth, he says. No one in this administration is willing to acknowledge publicly.
Sent our soldiers from the 103rd Sustainment Command there anyway. Is that true or false? True or false? Straightforward question.
Are you going to give me a chance to answer or just play gotcha?
Did you send them there or not?
We took proactive
I'll
measures
take that
from the
as a yes
beginning
and
to ensure
reclaim my
force
time.
protection and defensive
Now,
posture were
let's talk,
maximized
Mr.
across
Secretary,
the theater.
Let's talk about what defenses they had. Prior to the attack, officers on the ground knew our troops were vulnerable. In fact, they requested additional force protection. Did they receive it?
Wherever humanly possible, force protection and counter UAS was always made available.
They did not. In fact, when asked to describe the base's defense, one survivor who's come forward from the unit said, quote, I would put it in the none category. From a drone defense capability, none. So let's be clear, no counter-drone capabilities, no counter-rocket systems, no counter-mortar or counter-artillery, not even the basic overhead protection that you and I had 20 years ago in Iraq, and now 6 of our soldiers are dead. The next day, you downplayed the attack. You said it was a squirter that squeaked through fortified defenses. But since then, thankfully, brave survivors have come forward to set the record straight. One of our surviving soldiers told CBS, quote, painting a picture that one squeaked through is a falsehood. Another said the unit was, quote, unprepared to provide any defense for itself. It was not a fortified position. Another survivor said the building's protection was about as weak as one gets. Secretary Hegseth, that is obviously in direct contradiction to what you said from the Pentagon podium the next day. So are you saying that these soldiers, our soldiers who survived this horrific attack, are lying?
What I'm saying is before the commencement of the conflict, we put in maximum defensive posture we could. In this directing, can I speak, or are you just going to monologue falsehoods all over the place?
It's not a falsehood.
We moved 7,500 troops off of
Reclaiming
the
my
X based
time.
on the intel.
Stop.
Based on the intel.
Stop. Reclaiming my time.
Because you yell doesn't make you right.
Calling,
Just because you yell doesn't make you right.
I'm reclaiming my time on behalf of these survivors. You just said what they said is a falsehood.
There's a much larger picture.
True?
There's a much larger picture at play here that included integrated air defenses, bunkers, moving people off the X
why, Mr. Secretary,
to ensure that they were
dead?
not part of the target. We moved those troops and all across the theater, thousands of troops off the X, off of their bases, because we knew what Iran was going to try to strike, and we knew there could be a tragic moment. There could be a tragic moment where something could get through. Of course, that's the consequence of conflict, and we remember those 6 every single day.
I want to finish.
But don't play games with.
I'm not playing games. I want to finish with one more quote from a survivor of the attack, and I put this on the record. Telling the truth is important, and we're not going to learn from these mistakes if we pretend these mistakes didn't happen. Secretary Hegseth, those soldiers told the truth. Those soldiers are braver than you are.
I commend them.
They are asking for accountability. They deserve accountability, and I'm asking for the same, starting with you. And as I said a year ago, you need to resign immediately.
I commend those soldiers.
I yield back.
Hegseth attempts to shift the discussion toward procedure. He speaks about relocating thousands of troops, the broader strategic picture, and layered defense systems. But Ryan refuses to let the conversation drift. Instead, he reads the words of a survivor into the official record. Telling the truth is important, and we're never going to learn from these mistakes if we keep pretending they never happened. Then he delivers the statement that defines the entire hearing. Those soldiers told the truth. Those soldiers have shown more courage than you have. They are demanding accountability, and I am demanding it as well, starting with you. At that moment, the hearing stops being about military strategy or operational timelines. It becomes a question of character. A decorated combat veteran who has buried fellow service members tells the Secretary of Defense that the troops who survived the attack displayed greater courage than the official who authorized their deployment. And the Secretary's response is silence. Ryan presents that silence as the hearing's clearest verdict. Trump chose this leadership, while those surrounding him, including loyalists such as Kash Patel, have shown little interest in demanding a different response. Meanwhile, 6 grieving families are still waiting for the accountability they believe they deserve.
From Massachusetts, Mr. Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to talk briefly about the current U.S. doctrine and conduct of the administration in a particular event and a series of events, actually. As everybody in the dais and the witness table is aware, the Department of Defense Law of War Manual specifies that any order to kill shipwrecked persons in an illegal order would constitute a war crime. It isn't suggested there's a specific example to show a clear-cut example of what this entails in our own manual. With that in mind, let's look back a few weeks ago when a fishing crew ended a long day of hard fishing, scoring a full stock of albacore and swordfish on board. Without any warning or expectation, this small Ecuadorian fishing vessel, operating about 200 nautical miles off the Galapagos Islands, was militarily engaged by U.S. forces. It was hit once, then it was hit again. Not a warning shot, not an interdiction, 2 drone strikes. Survivors described chaos and severe injuries. Our U.S. forces then handcuffed the crew at gunpoint, placed black hoods over their heads, seized and scrubbed their devices, and then held them for days. Ultimately, the crew was released, given there was no evidence to support any narco activity or any charges that may be against them. So to recap, we struck a vessel, we struck it again, set fire to it as it was sinking. And as public reports say, even drank their beer. We detained the survivors, and then we let them go. This should be eye-opening. Now let's go to another example, the double tap or 2-strike attack that took place on September 2nd in the Caribbean. A vessel was struck, disabled, and then struck again, killing all but 2 survivors that were left clinging to the wreckage. And this is the thing. We know this happened. We know how it happened. And the Defense Department still refuses to release the follow-up video of the killing of the shipwrecked survivors, even though they released the initial one to the public in major news networks worldwide. No difference in sources and methods in the 2 videos, but still not released to the public. Of course, the backlash was severe at the time and perhaps is being forgotten. An unpredictable but ignoble display of character from this administration. Fingers were pointed at one another as everyone scurried to cover, in a tacit acknowledgement that this was an issue potentially violating international law. Now, I've reviewed what's been available, the phony rationale that these attacks are about fentanyl trafficking, when we know fentanyl comes from China, India, through Mexico. Then the baseless argument that this was about narco-terrorism. You know, I don't believe a word of it. This was to create leverage for regime change in Venezuela. And now the president acknowledged that was about oil. Beyond the simple need for justice and exercising American values, it's important for us to discuss what the U.S. belligerence in the world stage means to our security, our ability to marshal cooperation with our allies, and most importantly, not to normalize these actions that could endanger the lives of our own service members put in similar peril.
This is no longer just about a single failed decision in Kuwait. Look at what this same administration is accused of doing elsewhere. A small Ecuadorian fishing boat is reportedly struck twice by U.S. forces. The survivors are detained at gunpoint, placed in handcuffs, blindfolded with black hoods, held for several days, and eventually released after no evidence is found against them. In the Caribbean, another vessel is disabled and then hit again, while crew members are still struggling in the water after the initial strike. Ryan argues that footage of the second incident has never been made public. Meanwhile, the official explanations continue to change, from fentanyl to narcotics to terrorism, until even the president acknowledges the operation involved oil and strategic leverage. According to Ryan, these are not isolated incidents. They reflect a much deeper pattern. The argument is that this culture treats human life as expendable, views the law as something that can be ignored, and reshapes the truth to fit whatever narrative is needed at the moment. Ryan contends that Trump built this system by rewarding loyalty over competence, while figures such as Kash Patel help preserve it by ensuring the toughest questions rarely receive meaningful answers. When a government appears to show the same disregard for stranded fishermen as it does for its own service members, Ryan argues, the issue extends far beyond a single defense secretary. In his view, the problem lies with the entire system itself.
Let me be clear about one thing. Whether it's these particular strikes discussed here, the one that killed 11 others off the coast of Venezuela, whether it's the 178 other killings, with each of these extrajudicial killings, the administration is pirating American values. We'll continue to investigate this. We will. It'll come forward in the future. Some days that second video will be released. But we've got to stop also using our precious resources that are being taxed so heavily all over the world on actions that hurt our military. They hurt our military and they hurt our standing internationally, and they're hurting our standard here at home. I hope that we can move forward. I hope we can review whether these are justified, because I found no justification. We were given classified information on the second strike. I can't discuss it, but I must tell you, it's the most convoluted bullshit I ever heard in my life. This should be public. This is our honor.
Listen carefully to the final accusation made in that hearing. Ryan argues that this administration is hijacking core American values, not in a symbolic way, but in a very real one. He says it has made truth optional, accountability optional, and human life something that can be treated as negotiable whenever it becomes politically inconvenient. In his view, the same system that responded with silence after the deaths of 6 American soldiers is also the one that buries videos, changes its explanations, and expects the public to simply move on. He contends that this pattern has become impossible to ignore. Donald Trump, he argues, did not accidentally create this culture. He built it by rewarding loyalty over competence and surrounding himself with people whose first priority is protecting the leadership rather than protecting the truth. Ryan argues that figures like Kash Patel are not merely observers. In his view, they are essential supports within a system designed to absorb controversy without allowing it to produce meaningful accountability. He says that is the greater loss. Not only the lives that have already been lost, but the growing expectation that Americans will accept each new version of events without demanding the complete record behind it. When a government can reshape the narrative faster than the evidence becomes public, he argues, citizens stop acting as watchdogs and instead become an audience that is carefully managed. Ryan refused to accept that role. He placed the contradiction in full view and left it unanswered. The fact that no clear response has followed, he says, reveals where power currently rests and what it is determined to protect. Ryan does not speculate about whether anyone will resign. Instead, he points only to what he believes the record already demonstrates. When the truth threatens the narrative is defended, while the truth is left to stand on its own. If you believe the record still matters, take 2 actions right now. Like this video so more people can see what happened during the hearing, and leave a comment with the one question you most want this administration to answer. The algorithm may not care about accountability, but people still can.